The draw is the mechanism by which Stanford students, except in fraternities, were assigned to their individual residences after the freshman year. So it's a very sophisticated lottery with various levels of priorities and things like that.
I think draw was a big one as well. I remember that being quite stressful. It's like, who do you draw with? Who do you want to live with? And then how do you rank it? And what happens if you don't get, if you get a low number, type of thing.
In those days, the draw, which I was responsible for undergraduate students, was done in what was called the drawing room. And students would actually go over to one of the community centers over in the old Union area of campus. And there would be a big numbers chest where people would draw their numbers. But students would go in appointed times and they'd come in their groups that were allowed. And they would come in where they'd bring their special trinkets and toys and stuffed animals and things that would give them good luck.
Once a year, towards the end of the semester, they would have these two huge buckets. And the buckets were filled with tiles or strips of paper. And each year they would theme it. So I remember one year it was themed like the movies. And you come in and there's this huge decorated thing, and there's movie posters everywhere and streamers, and sometimes people would dress up as like Marilyn Monroe or something like that, and it was like this big party. And you drew a number out of this bucket, and you could draw it either as an individual or a group.
We had a gimmick in every draw, which was how the draw numbers would be in the chest of numbers. We put the numbers in fortune cookies, and students would reach in and grab a fortune cookie and get their number. And as students reached in, they were breaking fortune cookies, and numbers were falling all over the bottom of the barrel of the chest. And I thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do here? This is not going to be fair. It's crazy. So we had to figure that out.
Someone created a sock puppet so that the puppet would be, obviously they're still getting controlled by someone's hand, but the puppet would be picking the number. So it's like you couldn't get mad at you couldn't get mad at a person, you'd be getting mad at the sock puppet. So kind of, put a separate element in there.
My freshman year, I think it was the last year, we had a physical draw to choose where you're going to live. So we got together. It was a big deal. Our group consulted a Ouija board and told us who should do the drawing and when we should leave. And we took this pretty seriously because I remember it was 8:29, I think, in the morning. We had to leave to go do the draw, which was extraordinarily early for all of us to be awake. But we went down there, and Neil drew the number, and it was from 1 to 3,000, I think it was, and he drew number 29. And this was honestly the most excited I think I've been. I was in my life, and maybe since then, like that, it felt like we won the World Series. The most like spontaneous emotion I think we ever had. We were jumping up and down, hugging. It was fantastic.
Drawing from the barrel was like fun and exciting, and also disappointing, like if you didn't get what you wanted, and also it was a very clear indication of which residences were the most popular, because there would be a residence that would go quickly because everyone wanted to live there, and then after every room was taken, you had no chance to get there if your draw number was lower. I know you use a different system now, but at that time people moved everywhere, and it was all based on luck, basically.
I never had a great draw number, I remember. Never really had a good one. It's like, if I would never win the lottery. I kind of fantasized and thought, like, what would it be to live in a row house?
It was probably the biggest event of spring quarter at Stanford. And actually something was gained by when we automated that, and it finally was able to be so much more sophisticated. But something was lost as well, because it was definitely a Stanford tradition that was really very fun.